Logically fallacy, ad hominem. Ad hominem is a logical fallacy that involves attacking the person making an argument rather than the argument itself. The term ad hominem comes from the Latin phrase argumentum ad hominem, which means argument against the person. This fallacy is often used in debates, discussions, and arguments as a way to discredit or dismiss the person making the argument, rather than engaging with the substance of their argument. Ad hominem fallacies can take many forms, from personal attacks to character assassination. Some common examples of ad hominem attacks include name-calling, ridicule, and questioning the credibility or personal characteristics of the person making the argument. The problem with ad hominem attacks is that they are not logically sound arguments. Attacking the person making an argument does not address the actual content of the argument itself. It is possible for someone to make a valid argument, even if they have personal flaws or are not an expert in the field. Furthermore, ad hominem attacks can be used to divert attention away from the actual issue at hand. By attacking the person making the argument, the attacker is not addressing the substance of the argument and is instead trying to discredit the person making the argument. This can be a tactic used to avoid engaging with the argument and to undermine the credibility of the person making the argument. One of the most common examples of ad hominem attacks in public discourse is in politics. Politicians often attack their opponents personally, rather than addressing the substance of their opponent's arguments. This can include questioning their opponent's intelligence, competence, or personal characteristics. While this may be effective in swaying public opinion, it is not a valid form of argumentation. Ad hominem attacks can also occur in personal relationships, where one person may attack the character or credibility of the other person rather than addressing the issue at hand. This can be harmful to the relationship and can prevent a productive resolution to the problem. There are several different types of ad hominem attacks. One common type is the circumstantial ad hominem, which involves attacking the person making the argument based on their circumstances or personal characteristics. For example, a person may argue that a homeless person's argument for increased government assistance is invalid because the person is homeless and therefore not a credible source. Another type of ad hominem attack is the tu quoque fallacy, which involves pointing out that the person making the argument is guilty of the same thing they are arguing against. For example, a politician may accuse their opponent of being corrupt, even though they have a history of corruption themselves. Ad hominem attacks can also be used as a way to dismiss someone's argument without actually engaging with the substance of their argument. This is known as the poisoning the well fallacy, where someone attacks the credibility of the person making the argument before they have even presented their argument. For example, a person may say that they don't believe anything their opponent says because they are a known liar, without actually addressing the substance of their opponent's argument. It is important to recognize ad hominem attacks when they occur and to avoid using them in our own arguments. Instead, we should focus on engaging with the substance of the argument and addressing the actual issues at hand. This can help us to have more productive conversations and debates, and to arrive at better solutions to problems. In conclusion, ad hominem attacks are a common form of logical fallacy that involves attacking the person making an argument rather than the argument itself. These attacks can take many forms, from personal attacks to character assassination, and can be used to divert attention away from the actual issue at hand. It is important to recognize ad hominem attacks when they occur and to avoid using them in our own arguments. By engaging with the substance of the argument and addressing the actual issues at hand, we can have more productive conversations and debates, and arrive at better solutions to problems. To avoid ad hominem attacks in our own arguments, we should focus on the facts and evidence that support our argument, rather than attacking the character or credibility of our opponent. We should also avoid making assumptions about our opponent's motives or personal characteristics, and instead focus on the substance of their argument. One effective way to avoid ad hominem attacks is to focus on using evidence-based arguments. This means providing clear, objective evidence to support our claims, rather than relying on personal attacks or emotional appeals. By using evidence-based arguments, we can build a stronger case for our position and avoid the temptation to engage in ad hominem attacks. Another way to avoid ad hominem attacks is to practice active listening. This means listening to our opponent's argument without interrupting or dismissing their points, and then responding with thoughtful and respectful counterarguments. By listening actively, we can better understand our opponent's position and engage in a more productive conversation. In conclusion, ad hominem attacks are a common form of logical fallacy that can undermine productive conversations and debates. To avoid ad hominem attacks, we should focus on engaging with the substance of the argument and using evidence-based arguments. By avoiding personal attacks and practicing active listening, we can have more productive conversations and arrive at better solutions to problems.